Let's take it away, guys.
Observation number 3. After replenishing their energy, humans retire to a private magical room. And if they are bothered while inside their magic room, they will transform into a rodent.
Stop observing!
Welcome back. We're going to stick with the Dragon Duels for our 4th feature match of the day here at the 2014 Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game World Championship. And it's been a bit of an up and down day for Geargia.
Yeah.
We've seen a win and a loss. So we're going to do a tiebreaker this time around with Bill McCavitt, who is running Geargia in the Dragon Duel Championship today. And his opponent will be now Murakami, who's brought Evil Swarm.
Yes.
It's a very interesting pick. I'm not really certain what the specific reason he was that he chose that deck.
I don't know.
Got any ideas?
Not a clue. I mean, it was a very strong contender in previous formats.
It is a strong contender. It can search out its own protection in the form of Infestation Pandemic with its ability, and it can lock down level 5 and higher special summons.
Yeah.
But you gotta wonder, how many level 5 or higher special summons are you going to see? Against Geargia, there are 0. Against Bedolce, there are 0.
Yeah.
There aren't any Artifact Moraltox around, except for the one guy who we still haven't been able to figure out, what he's up to. We haven't heard any updates on the player running artifacts, but other than him, there just aren't any level 5 and higher special summons to be had here. So a lot of the advantage of Evil Swarm Ophion is lost. That said, there are some other very excellent Evil Swarm Xyz monsters that could be particularly useful. Evil Swarm Ouroboros, the evil version of Trishula, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Evil Swarm Bahamut. It's kind of like number 11 Big Eye, lets you take control of monsters. Thanatos, that one flips down opponent's monsters, usually into their weaker defense position.
Yeah.
So there are some things to work with here, but whether those things and having access to them beats having a full, well-rounded staff of rank 4 Xyz monsters, the number 101s of the world, Heartland Dragos and Gaga Cowboys, Diamond Direwolf. There's just such a large list of rank 4 monsters that I want to play with that I'm not certain whether or not I would run an Evil Swarm deck just to get access to Ophion and friends. But now Murakami decided to do so,
yeah.
And it's worked pretty well for him so far.
So far, yeah.
So I'm interested to see how it plays out. And we'll be able to do that live shortly.
Now, which Xyz monsters is he playing specifically?
He's got Ophion, Ouroboros.
Yeah.
He's got Bahamut, multiple Bahamuts. Stealing monsters is good. Nightmare and Thanatos.
And, of course, Exciton Knight.
Yep. Along with that, he's got 103, Ragna Zero. That's useful when you have the Bedolce players with their chateaus. You can at least get rid of the monsters temporarily and draw an extra card off it.
And, of course,
very good.
Bujin with the Fire Fist.
Yeah, anything that runs Fire Formation tanky, even if it's just for one copy of Bear or whatever you have in your deck. Anytime you play it, as long as the Fire Formation's still up, then number 103 becomes a threat. You got to watch out, though, for when people wise up to it and start special summoning their monsters in defense position.
Yeah.
Only works on attack position cards.
There is that problem. And we have Bill, as we said, playing Geargia.
It looks very similar to the last Geargia deck we saw. But it also takes a little bit from the last Bedolce deck we saw as well. The split of Maxi and Effect Failure, the one-on-one, that's also present in Bill McCavitt's deck.
He's also running 17 monsters as well.
He is, and we'll see if he can open with a few fewer. That's too many fews.
Yeah.
You need fewer. What I find interesting in Now's deck is that he's going with the Rescue Rabbit approach.
Yeah.
You have 1 Rescue Rabbit and 3 copies of a normal monster. It's not a bad normal monster. 1950 is pretty good, and it could serve him really well in this match by being 50 points stronger than Geargia Armor's defense. But, sometimes you draw your multiple normal monsters along with your Rescue Rabbit.
Yeah.
That's when things usually go south.
Now, it's an interesting Thunder King Ryo just shoved into Gig either.
It is interesting. It actually has applications in this matchup as well because it's going to stop, Xyz summons by sacrificing itself. But it can also stop a lot of search cards.
Yeah.
And obviously, Evil Swarm Ophion searches out its own protection. And there's also the trap card, Infestation Pandemic.
Yeah.
I think it is, that lets you
That's
swap out Evil Swarm from your hand and field with ones in your deck. Doesn't look like he's playing that, though. He's playing Infestation Infection. Interesting.
Also a very powerful card,
Yep.
regardless.
And he's got Pair of Pandemics, which is generally what people run with these days, 2 instead of the full 3. But he's also running Forbidden Chalice and Forbidden Dress, which are both cards that I really like. Forbidden Dress, in particular, is useful for now because if he runs into a Fire Hand or an Ice Hand, well, a Fire Hand specifically, he can still play that Forbidden Dress from his hand during the damage step, before damage is calculated. And Ophion, or whatever Evil Swarm monster he has, will likely still be bigger than the Fire Hand, and thus be able to take it down, not be destroyed by it, and stop the chain of summoning right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting matchup. It's not clear which way it'll go.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually ever seen a Girgi against Evil Swarm match. I mean, there's a lot of possible matchups out there in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and I haven't seen it.
No.
But these two players are about to.
So let's introduce them.
Murakami の日本から来ました。
My name is Bill and I'm from Australia.
Australia versus Japan.
Yeah,
Neighbors in the ocean.
definitely.
And it looks like they are getting ready right now. I really wonder how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So one of the unique things about the Evil Swarm monsters is that they've got a lot of 50s in their attack and defense points. As the corrupted versions, they gain a certain amount of strength.
Yeah.
So your 1900 normal monster Gem Knight becomes 1950 normal monster Evil Swarm. But those 50s start to add up when you think about all the other cards that are played. And you get to a point where, I'm just 50 better than whatever my opponent's going to play.
Yeah.
And that could be enough to drive you towards playing a deck like this. I don't know that it would sway me, but it is a compelling argument.
It'd be nice for it to be more. But 50 is...
50's... I mean, if you go more than that, then you're playing Gene Warp Werewolf.
Yeah, that's true. That is
or
true.
Alexandrite Dragon. And then you
That's
don't
true.
have the support of an entire deck around it, like Evil Swarm, Karikion, and Castor, and all that stuff. Interesting inclusion is one copy of Evil Swarm Mazathoth.
Yeah.
It's a flip effect, shuffles a special summon monster back into the deck. I believe that's the one. There's certainly going to be a lot of special summon monsters. And you can't really play Fossil Dyna yourself in this deck. You need to be dedicated to the Evil Swarm name.
Yeah.
And you also need to use your own special summons. So Azathoth is an interesting concession to the fact that you can't really run Fossil Dynapachicephalo. What I do wonder is how this would fare against Infernity.
It's a shame. It's probably already seen it. And we didn't get to see it.
Oh,
Sad.
we can ask about that later.
Yeah.
He's running a full set of breakthrough skills, which would actually be pretty handy in this matchup. When
It will.
your opponent starts to do the flip up, flip down with Girgi Armor, or is trying to get back into the game with a Girgiano Mark II, having triple breakthrough skill, pretty good. And it also has a secondary effect of, if your opponent leaves up an Evil Swarm Exciton Knight, being able to use the secondary effect of breakthrough skill from your graveyard during your own turn, very valuable against monsters like that, Silent Honor Arc, anything with built-in protection like Wind-Up Zen Mines.
Yeah.
Saw a lot out of Wind-Up Zen Mines last time around when it took out that crucial Dimensional Fissure. So, if you have a breakthrough skill in your graveyard at that point, maybe you don't lose your Dimensional Fissure.
It's fantastic always to just go, nope.
Nope, it's a good card. There's kind of a debate between Fiendish Chain and Breakthrough Skill, because one of them stops attacks at the same time, the other one doesn't, but you can use one of them twice. And there's no real consensus on which one is actually better. Maybe we'll have one by the end of the event.
European Championships, me and Matt Bell decided that Fiendish Chain was one of the best cards in the game.
It is one of the best cards in the game,
if not the best card.
but so is Breakthrough Skill. Therein lies the problem.
Yeah, I can see that. Especially because you can use Breakthrough Skill twice.
Yep. And just being able to stop that stuff that happens on your turn with it. And there's a lot more of it than you think. We saw a lot of that with the Mermail match earlier today. summoning out.
This dice is only rolling 3s.
Well, there we go. We got a 1, and Bill McCavitt has decided to go first.
Ready to start now?
We're ready to go. Looks like our duelists are ready to go.
Okay, you have 1 hour from now.
And it looks like we've got those monsters again on Bill McCavitt's side. Whereas now has the opposite issue. He doesn't seem to have any monsters. Bill's got 3.
Bill isn't in a massively bad position.
Nope. One of them is at least a special summon trick from the deck. One's from the graveyard. And, you know, it could always be... Oh, no, it is Infestation Infection, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I always get the Evil Swarm mixed up. They've got such sinister names.
Yeah.
That's why they're the Evil Swarm, I suppose.
It's kind of in the name.
A face-down card, both a monster and a spell or trap, is set to Bill's side of the field. And now Murakami is up, and he picked up, looks like Evil Swarm Mandragora, which is one of those monsters with the Cyber Dragon claws that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Dark Hole starts things off very strong, taking Geargi Armor right out of the picture. Even if it were something like a hand, that would still be a strong play. And even though there isn't a huge amount of follow-up here, just the Mandragora, you still feel good when you get that first turn Geargi Armor off the board. 1550 from Mandragora. It's going to make life difficult for our scorekeepers.
Yeah.
Keeping all those 50s straight. Making life a little difficult for our duelists themselves, it seems. Have you ever had a situation where you just ran into something with a 50 just to get the 50 out of your life points?
Yes.
I don't blame you.
Well, there was a card with something like 73.
Castle of Dark Illusions, I think, has a 20 in it. 2 face-down cards, and now Murakami's turn. And plays back to Bill, who summons Geargi Arsenal. Declares an attack on the 1550 Evil Swarm Mandragora. That's interesting because Murakami has a breakthrough skill face down that he could use to kick Geargi Arsenal back down to 1500, at which point that 50 would come in exactly handy. Instead, it appears he flips Infestation Infection. And he's going to use it to get a different monster from his deck. He's thinking about it, and he goes with...
Heliotrope.
Is that Heliotrope?
Mm-hmm.
So dual terminal, very shiny. I couldn't even tell that it was a normal monster.
Yeah.
That'll do it for the searching for this turn, though. It's still the battle phase, though. And Bill can get in a little early damage as well.
I've never noticed that Heliotrope's text is written backwards.
Yep. It's actually the same thing on the Japanese version of the card as well.
Oh, wow.
So it took a little thinking to figure out exactly how we were going to port that over to the English version of the card.
Oh, the needle sealing in hand.
It's an interesting main deck choice. Pretty good against large fields, though.
Like Gear when it kicks off. So maybe he was playing it for a mirror? Or even Infernity?
Probably Infernity.
Yeah.
Could also work against Bedolce as well.
Yeah. It's just an all-round good card.
The attack continues, 1,700 damage from Geary Arsenal, and in main phase 2, he tributes it. And he thinks about getting Geary armor. But he probably realizes that the reason that Heliotrope was the pick there off Infestation Infection was that blasted 50 in its attack points. That would help it swing over Geary armor.
Yes.
Yeah, he goes with the armor anyway.
My reasoning in doing something like that is if I can flip it face down now,
Yep.
at least I'll get one search off of it.
At least one. If Murakami allows it. He did save the breakthrough skill.
He did.
Don't know that I'd use it to stop Geary armor from flipping down, though. I'm pretty sure there are more important things you can do with your breakthrough skill. Have a little. Sleeves keep coming back. It's so slippery. And he flips. Oh.
Yeah,
He tries to flip it face down, but now goes ahead and uses the breakthrough skill right there. He probably gets the feeling that McCavitt's hand is extremely weak, and it's better, in this case, to stop the armor from flipping face down and attack it without him getting another search.
Out comes the Heliotrope.
Heliotrope attacks Geary armor.
And Torrential Tribute.
It does not attack, it is summoned. And Torrential Tribute is activated. In response, the effect of the Infestation Infection is used again, and Heliotrope escapes off to the deck. This time being replaced with... I don't have the spotter's guide for Evil Swarms.
No, me
but I
neither.
thought it looked Evil Swarm Caster, yes, for the extra normal summon. Caster very useful for facilitating XE summons. And along with the Karikion that he has in his hand, he could start getting a nice supply of monsters. He really needs just about one more somewhere to really set things off.
Please shuffle a little more quickly. Shuffle a little more quickly. Shuffle a little. Okay. Shuffle. Okay,
No,
it's okay, it's okay. Go, it's okay. Let's
Just
next time.
Next time shuffle more.
Go, go.
Some brief confusion, but we've got all of our Evil Swarm in a row here. And Murakami sets 2 face-down cards to end his turn. McCavitt eyeing that soul charge. Thinking about whether or not he wants to play it into 2 unknown face-down cards.
And he's doing it anyway.
He does. And he brings back both Geary armors. Not quite the whole team, but if he can leave them on the field for long enough, he can start to get back into this.
Unfortunately, it cost him 2,000 life points to do that.
And Murakami just picked up Evil Swarm Mandragora, exactly what he wanted to see. Caster is next. And Needle Sealing is activated. 4 monsters are on the field, so all the face-up ones will be destroyed. That said, Infestation Infection is still there, and Murakami can use it to save one of his monsters and get another one from the deck. And he still has an extra normal summon.
This takes time. No.
Needle Sealing may not wind up doing its job quite as intended.
So this is some successful. Okay.
Infestation Infection is not used.
So he can.
And the question now is, even though Caster was destroyed, can I still get my extra normal summon? And because it was summoned successfully, you can. And we now see why he didn't use the Infestation Infection. It's so that he had both a card to banish and a card to add to his hand for Evil Swarm Krikion's effect, which gives him yet another extra normal summon. With 2 level 4 Evil Swarm monsters, Murakami dives into his extra deck and wishes he was playing Bujin so that he could clear out both of those Gear Armors in one blow.
What's he gonna go for?
There's the Xyz summon. And activates the effect
Of Ophion.
of Evil Swarm Ophion, retrieving Infestation Pandemic from his deck. Now, you can't replace Mystical Space Typhoon with Forbidden Lands. You can't really replace it with Infestation Infection either.
No.
But you can replace Forbidden Lands with Infestation Infection.
Yes.
It protects the entire team of Evil Swarm monsters from spells and traps for a turn. Murakami, incidentally, knows this and is playing the full complement of Mystical Space Typhoons as well. Not super relevant at the moment because McCavitt is out of traps for the moment.
It's just one of those cards to hold on to.
Yep. As long as you have it, you're all right. And he knows that he doesn't need both Xyz materials on Ophion to keep the special summon prevention going, because there aren't any such monsters in McCavitt's deck. So we can safely search out both Pandemics, which gives 2 turns of protection to his entire team, and takes 2 cards out of the deck that he doesn't have to draw.
2 Gigiano Mark IIs are entering Bill's hand.
Gigiano Mark II, a lot of people forget it can summon from your hand as well.
Yeah.
Question is, what is McCavitt going to pull out that is bigger than the 2550 Evil Swarm Ophion? Those 50s rearing their ugly heads again. From the looks of things, his best bet would be an Evil Swarm Exciton Knight to just clear the whole field out.
That's what I was thinking.
Kane Gorgon, honorable mention for having a 50 in his attack points, but still too low. Geargi Armor flip face up. Geargi Accelerator joins it. And it looks like the decision is between Silent Honor Arc and Evil Swarm Exciton Knight.
Now, at the moment, it looks like an Exciting Knight actually put him on equal cards.
He's got to get past all the traps first.
Oh.
And that is not going to go well for the player from Japan.
Activated this.
The effect was activated, targeting Evil Swarm Ophion, and Murakami declared a chain to the effect with Forbidden Dress.
But he activated
Unfortunately, Forbidden Dress can't go back in time and untarget things that have already been targeted.
case.
So the end result of this one, once everything is said and done, is that the Ophion is going to be absorbed, and Murakami is going to be down a Forbidden Dress.
He cut this one. Yes.
Basically just a case of he waited too long to activate the Forbidden Dress. You'd have to activate it straight away.
Yes, yeah, but he's saying that he. I know that, but he was already done it.
But he did not. Interesting note for Silent Honor Arc. If it is not on the field at all, like say he gets destroyed by Infernity Break or something before its effect resolves, targeted monster stays where it is.
Yeah.
Nothing happens. If it's flipped face down, though, it's still absorbed.
Oh. I guess that makes sense, because it's still on the field.
Yep, you can have Xyz materials on a face down card. Happens every time Book of Moon gets flipped.
Yep.
And now, the Xyz monster has become the Xyz material, and the path to Murakami's life points is open.
Not quite yet.
Girgiano Mark II comes down on the McCavitt side of the field. And he quickly checks his extra deck before deciding what to special summon with it. Considering whether or not he wants to summon that other Girgiano. Well, when the choice is a card in your hand versus getting a card back from your graveyard, it's usually not much of a choice at all, and Girgi Armor returns to the field. It's flipped face down, first thing first, and then Girgiano Mark II attacks directly. Murakami takes a look at his graveyard.
Really thinking about that?
He does
Call of the
run
Haunted.
one Call of the Haunted, which he has there. He goes ahead and uses it.
And it's targeting.
If you play, you can.
That is...
Yes, we can decide, yeah. You can do it.
350.
It's like a cat. Whatever it
does.
is, it's back in the graveyard now. A replay occurred because a monster appeared on the defender's side of the field. Girgiano Mark II's attack was canceled and cannot be redeclared. And Silent Honor Arc takes down the Evil Swarm monster. Interesting that Murakami did not decide to shuffle it back into the deck to get another Karikion.
Yeah. Now, the monster's been destroyed, so Call of the Haunted would go as well.
Correct.
Yeah, there we go.
And Murakami seems pretty happy about his draw. He saw it and quickly hit it and went straight to the graveyard. Because he's drawn another Karikion. I guess there's no need to search one out when the next one's on top of your deck.
Yeah. There's the second one.
Plays that as well. And then takes a look at his extra deck. Silent Honor Arc is left in attack position, so he could always arc back the arc. And it looks like that's what he wants to do. Arc
Fiendish
tries to
Chain.
take Arc, but Fiendish Chain shuts that down. And that inability to attack comes into play here as well, since McCavitt has that other Girgiano in his hand, and suddenly the liability of a Mark II on the field can easily turn into a rank 3 Xyz summon. Girgi Armor's flipped.
At this point, I'd be figuring out, can I win this turn?
Yeah, it depends on the last face down card. But in general, I would say that you can. That it is, in fact, possible. Depends, actually, on whether or not he's got another Silent Honor Arc in his extra deck. Which he does not. You've got the Accelerator, and you've got the other Gear Gano. And between all of them, you can make a second Silent Honor Arc to absorb Murakami's Silent Honor Arc, and then still have a summon left over to get the last 2,000 damage you need.
Yeah. Is that a Gear Gigant X?
Goes with Gear Gigant.
If you need, you can open it.
Still a very powerful card.
Yep, even if you can't win this turn, you can still do a lot of damage and set yourself up to win on the next turn.
Especially because now does not have any cards in hand.
Spent both of them to make that Silent Honor Arc. Goes with Gear Gano Mark II. Looking to load up on summons, it seems. Gear Gano Mark II is next. Activates its effect. Gear Gate Accelerator is in defense position. And the two Gear Ganos are combined for windups and mines.
Yeah.
The second Accelerator is special summoned.
Which turns into... Yeah, he's trying to figure out if he can win this turn.
Gear Gate Accelerator, very useful. Interesting to note, though, that if Gear Gigant was his only monster there, he could not special summon the Gear Gate Accelerator.
No.
It is not a Gear Gate monster.
And I do believe that oh, it's his own Ken Gorgon.
How ironic.
Yeah.
50s versus 50s. Kane Gorgon attacks. Rest of the monsters attack as well.
Yeah.
And there's
And
a
there we
slight
go.
bit of confusion over the math, but that will do it for game one. Bill McCavitt just starts off very strong. Even
Extremely.
with 3 monsters in his hand, he got the cards he needed to shut down now Murakami.
Even with the 3 monsters in his hand, he had the ability to be able to go offensive straight away.
Yep, the soul charge really helped there.
Yeah.
That is what kept him in this one. It looked pretty bad at first when his Gear arm was getting run down by Heliotrope. And in the end, Murakami never got the chance to use the second effect of his breakthrough skill in that one.
Okay. So we're siding.
As for side decking, I see Mind Crushes
Yeah.
on Bill McCavitt's side. They do a lot of searching in Evil Swarm, and in addition to the searching, they also do a lot of adding cards back to their hand with Karikion. So I think it's kind of an easy bet that Mind Crush is going to come in. Flying Sea actually also has applications in this matchup.
Yes, it does.
Since without the Xyz monsters, the Evil Swarm are just a bunch of guys with 50 in their attack points. It's a pretty good 50. It's a 50 up instead of a 50 down.
But still.
Yep, it's not a whole lot if you have to deal with monsters from the extra deck.
Necro Valley's interesting.
Necro Valley would be interesting. Stop things from being banished. So Kirkion's effect to banish something from the graveyard and do all that wouldn't work. On the other side, well, there's not a whole lot for this particular matchup.
No.
I don't know that he was really expecting it. I mean, Vanity's Emptiness is kind of a catch-all that you can put in against most decks in this format or any format, since special summoning is so prevalent.
He could put in the effect veilers, just try and shut down the armors.
The Veilers could help shut down armors, shut down the Geargianos. Having the Geargiano in that last one helped him get all the monsters that he needed to win the game in that last turn.
Dimensional Fissure.
I'm not certain how much Dimensional Fissure really does. Like, it'll stop your Gigant from getting cards back from the graveyard,
Yeah.
but a lot of times they go there as Xyz material anyways,
True.
so they would hit the graveyard. I don't really know that Nal has a lot of action in the side deck for this one. From his extra deck, is there anything he could do differently? Not a whole lot. I just think this isn't the matchup that now Murakami wants to see.
No.
And he's going to have to play really well if he wants to get back in it.
Now we're seeing another Giga deck that works well with only one Giga Gear.
Yep. And the interesting thing is how well they use all the Mark IIs in their deck.
Yeah.
Good use of the actual Geargianos themselves. A lot of duelists don't appreciate Geargiano and Geargiano Mark II as cards. And that's part of, I think, why they dropped the deck and didn't have success with it. There's a lot of plays that only open up when you have the two Geargianos available. All right, and we are ready for the second game. After a brief check, we're ready to go, and now Murakami starts things off with Evil Swarm Caster. Joining it is Mandragora. And together they form the rank 4 Evil Swarm Ophion. Detaching the Castor to go ahead and search his deck for an Infestation card. Pandemic is the first search. That'll protect against, Dark Hole, Open Moon, etc. The question on my mind is, if that Evil Swarm Ophion makes it to next turn, what's the next search? Do you get the other Pandemic, or do you get Infestation, Infection, and start trying to fix your hand?
I guess it depends what happens.
Now, it depends on if you have to use the first one, I suppose.
There's also the fact that if there's a massive amount of back row,
Yeah.
you might
might need
think
it
about getting a second just in
for
case
2
it's all on
turns.
there. Yeah.
It's actually a situation where Fiendish Chain would be very good for McCavitt,
Yeah.
because Murakami would have to use the Pandemic right then to get the second one out, but then as soon as the first one runs off, Ophion's negated.
Yeah.
And he'd have to play it again right away next turn if he wanted to get it back. Sets the Pandemic, and that's all for the first turn.
Not a
Geargy
bad
Armor,
hand.
Thunder King Ryo, Black Horn of Heaven, Needle Sealing, Soul Charge, Book of Moon. That actually looks very promising. Black Horn of Heaven is especially good in this matchup. Kind of interested that he left the Needle Sealings in. He had success with them in the first duel, but when all of the monsters start being consolidated already, the first turn Ophion getting Pandemic, Needle Sealing loses a lot of value when you know it's probably going to be negated.
Yeah.
That looks like a Thunderbird to me.
That's the one.
Evil Swarm Thunderbird. And Ophion attacks. Quick check on the hand. And Geargy Armor is flipped face up. Armor Spec activates. Gavin picks up Geargy Accelerator. And Geargi armor is destroyed. Taking the accelerator to try to make a strong counterplay on his next turn. There's only one spell or trap card down on Murakami's side of the field, and given that he's searched for one spell and trap card, it's pretty obvious to McCavitt which card that is.
Yeah.
So he knows that the opportunity is now if he wants to make a counter Xyz play. Murakami's in that situation we talked about before, where you have too many monsters and not enough opportunities to play them, even with the many Evil Swarm effects that grant extra summons. Thunderbird attacks directly, 1650, with the ability to run away and hide, and go up to 1950, if the case may, or if the need arises.
So all the Evil Swarm are evil versions of all the cards?
Yes.
Yes. So what's the Thunderbird?
I think it's a Mist Valley card. Mist Valley Thunderbird?
Could be.
We can look that up later.
Yeah.
I know Ophion. He's Gungnir.
Ophion is?
Gungnir.
Is
Ice
it?
Barrier Dragon.
Oh.
The level 7 Synchro.
Okay.
Ouroboros is Trisha, level 9.
See, I thought it looked a lot like... Oh, what's it called? Horus.
Oh, it's all dual terminal monsters, though.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, the Evil Swarm corrupt all the other dual terminal monsters and
That makes sense.
do the thing. One nice touch on Ophion's art that I always liked is that his wings are made out of ice.
Yeah.
So you kind of tell what he used to be. It's very cool.
And there's the Silent on a Rock.
Yep, we got the counter Xyz play we were expecting, and Evil Swarm of Thunderbird very wisely decides to run away to live and fight another day. And because McCavitt was able to make that play without using a soul charge, he's able to attack directly for 2100 as well.
And he still has his soul charge.
Yep, and plenty of things to bring back with it now, as Murakami picks up another monster. Got the Thunderbird still chilling out there.
Look at all those dual terminal cards.
Oh, he's got double Heliotrope.
He has. He's got
In his
two
hand.
Heliotrope. He's got a Carrion and a Thunderbird still.
That's unfortunate, because it means not only is there another normal monster in his deck, there's also the Rescue Rabbit, which no longer does you any good.
Yeah.
But it's not mandatory, isn't
And the question is, hey, wait a minute.
it? For forgetting.
Evil Swarm Thunderbird's supposed to come back?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Let's go ahead and bring up Evil Swarm Thunderbird, let everybody read the
Sure.
card.
It says you can.
During the next standby phase, return this card banished by this effect to the field, and if you do, it gains 300 attack. It's not optional, so we do.
It's also not until the end of the turn.
It's next standby phase. This is the next standby phase because he used it on McCavitt's turn. So it should return here. I guess the judgment call here is how much information has been gained by not having the Evil Swarm Thunderbird return,
Yeah.
and should it remain out of play as a result.
Okay.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation, but I mean that's to be expected a little bit. In the Dragon Duel class, not everybody has. Well, I mean you've got the language barrier to deal with, and we've been able to see in this match that's been a little bit of a struggle to figure out what's going on, when it's happening, and it's looking now like we're going to go ahead and put the Thunderbird back on the field, because it is mandatory. There's no not bringing it back.
Yeah, you have to bring it back.
And it comes back with an extra 300 attack points. Kirkion joins it. Extra normal summon brings out Castor. Castor brings another extra normal summon of one of the heliotropes, and all of a sudden Murakami's been able to empty his hand almost completely of monsters. And he's got that pandemic waiting just in case he sees the needle ceiling again. That's the great thing about being able to get off that counterplay to take Ophion off the field, so that Murakami is put in a position where he has to put enough monsters on the field for needle ceiling to make a difference again. That could be big in McCavitt's chances to win this one.
I'm assuming, though, if you chain 2 Infestation Pandemic, you'll still get an effect off.
Correct. So
you could do this very cleverly.
Yeah, the trick is to get Murakami to activate his Pandemic first. First EXE summons, though. To grab another Ophion. Only to be denied by Black Horn of Heaven. Now, it does still leave 2 level 4 monsters on the field, which could be used to make another Silent Honor Arc.
Yeah.
Is he Spanish?
And we could see very much the same play we did last time, where Arc fights Arc.
Although, surely he could Book of Moon his own arc. To stop the arc.
He'd have to Book of Moon the opponents before he could activate it. Because we actually just talked about this.
Yeah.
If you do activate the effect and your arc gets flipped face down, he still eats it. He's got a different Evil Swarm in mind this time, though. That is Evil Swarm Bahamut. That's the evil version of Brionac, 2350 attack to Brionac's 2300. And that lets you detach materials and discard Hellswarms from your hand to take control of enemy monsters. Now, it's interesting that you do target with the effect, but you don't discard as a cost. So your opponent doesn't see what you're getting rid of until the effect resolves. It's another way that you can hide as much information as possible.
Yeah.
This is set cut or is it
Silent Honor Arc attacks directly.
Unfortunately, needle sealing now becomes quite useless.
Direct attack from Bahamut as well. That's a large chunk of damage in addition to losing his arc. But McCavitt does still have that soul charge in hand. And he could engineer a situation where his needle sealing becomes useful again. If he brings back Girgi armors, flips them down first, and then flips up the needle ceiling.
Yeah.
Because we saw the Pandemic get used to block Book of Moon.
The thing is, though, that 101 still has a material.
It does.
It's one of the worries. Although he can't bring back, he can only bring back 1. He is on 1900 attack. Or life, even.
Got Girgiano in his hand as well. The priority here is getting something that is bigger than Bahamut. Like, you have to get rid of Bahamut so that you just don't get your monster stolen. Soul charge for 1. It's Girgi Accelerator. Girgiano's next, and it swaps out for another Girgi Accelerator. Checks the graveyard briefly before deciding on what to XC summon. And he goes with Cane Gorgon. And once again, trying to attack with Soul Charge. It's kind of been
Yeah, it's a
every single
running
time
theme.
it shows up. Can't do it, though. Couldn't do it last round, couldn't do it round before that. Goes ahead and activates the Bahamut. There's only one legal target here. So he is forced to hand over Kane Gorgon. And he didn't just concede right there, because there was always a chance that Murakami would have just played another monster for no reason and fallen right into the needle ceiling.
The problem is then he would have got the needle ceiling, but the 101 would still have the material.
Yep.
So, regardless, it was a lost cause. But
Just in case, though.
now didn't take any damage that game.
Yeah, it was a complete turnaround from the first time.
Yeah.
And it looks like, I think I see effect failures in there. So that looks like it is what Murakami sided in. Probably will keep them in for this game. Good thing about Geargia is that you don't really need the effect failure on the first turn against it.
Yeah.
So you're okay going second and taking the extra card to give you another shot to draw it. It seems like side decking was swift. I don't think anybody really wanted to make a change.
No, no. I mean, it obviously all worked for now.
Yep. But, game 3, anything can happen.
Well, it is the decider.
Yeah, shuffling is really an acquired skill.
Yeah.
I never realized how long it took me to learn how to shuffle
Yeah,
and do it properly. Like, there was this giant period of time where I just didn't know how to do it. I don't ever think I learned until I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, and there's so many different types of shuffling.
Nope. Couldn't do any of the fancy stuff, like even riffling it.
You don't want to riffle Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Well, yeah.
Marked Card City.
また見せる彼に
See, because the problem I had with Europeans, whenever I talked about shuffling, Matt got very angry. So
I like shuffling.
He told me that it wasn't
Shuffling's
interesting.
good.
See?
It's such an important part of the game. I mean, you shuffle constantly with all the search effects.
This is what I'm saying.
Got to give it its due sometime. If we're not going to do that at the World Championship, then when?
When?
Thunder King Ryo
Wow, 3
is
Thunderbirds.
first down for Bill McCavitt, and Murakami has opened 3 of a kind Thunderbirds along with Mirror Force and Torrential Tribute. A full house.
And an Infestation Pandemic, which he set.
Thunderbirds over mass removal cards.
Battle phase? Wait.
1 Thunderbird hits the field.
Battle phase
Battle phase is declared, and
Battle phase attack.
Doesn't say he's going to attack.
yes, he didn't quite say he was going to attack. Murakami reveals the Mirror Force, and you know, it doesn't really change things. So McCavitt attacks anyways. Mirror
then
Force
just
is activated.
Book a Moon to 10 card.
Book of Moon is chained
Does
to
that
keep Thunder King around.
dump the attack? Can you then activate Thunderbird's effect? I think that's what they're discussing.
It's when a Carter effect is activated, so Thunderbird can still work.
Yeah.
Thunder King is safe though because it's no longer in attack position. And is joined by a face-down monster, another spell or trap. Murakami's up, and he should remember. Yep, he does in fact remember his Thunderbird this time. And it comes back at 1950. It's like a Heliotrope is joining it for 2 1950 attack monsters. Thunder King gets blasted. Geargiano follows, and it doesn't look like Kavat has a particularly strong hand at this point. None of those cards that our analysts are talking about are the perfect opening cards. No,
Yeah.
you know, gear, armor, that sort of thing.
Oh,
Main phase 2, we have an Xyz summon.
I'm going through the overlay network.
Ophion comes down, but it's blasted by Black Horn of Heaven before it can reach the field.
Shame.
And that really kind of turns the tides of the duel.
Now still does have a Torrential Tribute set.
That's what McCavitt's got.
And that's
Gear
what
the
he's going
Arsenal.
for.
But it's blown away by Torrential Tribute before he can attack or get to his Gear. The second Evil Swarm Thunderbird steps up to bat. McCavitt thinks about his Solemn Warning for a second. And then 2. And then decides to use it to negate the summon of the Thunderbird. At this point, he's just trying to keep monsters off of Murakami's field, as one monster quickly balloons into 2, which turns into an Xyz monster. 2 cards face down, ends Murakami's turn, and McCavitt draws and sets a monster. Caster comes down on Murakami's side of the field, and it's joined by a Thunderbird.
Looking at his active deck, then decides to attack over.
Decides to attack instead, and he hits Gear Accelerator, which brings back Gear Arsenal to the hand. Thunderbird, after strike 1, swings again, and now he's batting 1650.
Now has a has 2 monsters. Thinking about that Xyz summon, but of course
He's got both the Pandemic and the Mirror Force, so he probably feels safe having already seen one Black Horn of Heaven, but what he doesn't know is that the other one's waiting for him. And the second Ophion meets the same fate as the first, Black Horn of Heaven negating the summon. And now things are looking up for Bill McCavitt. Gear Arsenal summon, but this time gets hit by Mirror Force. And Murakami has never been happier to see a normal monster in his life as Evil Swarm Heliotrope comes off the top of the deck for another 1950.
again now taking no damages this game at all.
Yep, picks up a trap. Takes a quick look at his graveyard.
What's this on here?
And he goes with another Gear Arsenal. This one he tributes right away. Seems to be deciding between Gear Accelerator or Gear Armor. Neither one is going to stand up to the Heliotrope. But both will get him another card back when they go down in battle. And one of the things that you can't really do with, well, one thing where Fiendish Chain kind of fails you, that has to target effect monster.
Yeah.
It's not going to help you here. Gear Accelerator is the play.
Yeah, I've kind of got the advantage that not many people actually play normal monsters.
Yep, or even just non-effect monsters. And he actually has another one. In addition to Heliotropes in his main deck, he's running Gem Knight Pearl in his extra deck. 2600,
Yeah.
rank 4 monster. It's non-effect.
Which is big.
Ever seen somebody revive Gem Knight Pearl with Digusto Emerald?
No.
It's happened.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
The non-effect special summon doesn't come into play that often, but when it does, whoever does it feels really clever. Gear Accelerator, back to the graveyard. And replacing it is Gear Arsenal in McCavitt's hand.
You put the accelerator on the bottom of your
McCavitt sets a monster. Murakami activates Dark Hole and chains with Infestation Pandemic to save his own monster. If he had another monster, this would be it. But he'll have to settle for 1950 against a lone Dust Tornado.
Again, just not looking good for Bill.
Soul Charge now completely out of the equation, not even for one.
All that's left is a Gear Arsenal in hand and a Dust Tornado. Just have to see what he draws.
He's got the Dust. He needs another level 4 Gear monster.
It looks like he may have it.
Well, he's got the Arsenal, but he needs an Accelerator, really. Dust Tornado.
Dust Tornado.
Pop the Forbidden Dress.
Dress is destroyed, but he's picked up Max C, it looks like. Arsenal distributed off.
Yep, there's the Max C.
Armor's next. And he's just trying to stall out long enough to get to an Accelerator plus level 4 play.
Yeah.
Because right now there are so few cards on the field that just one of them could break the game wide open. That said, there are still all those Evil Swarm Krikions in Murakami's deck.
Now
He
only
can use
actually
to take it right back.
He only actually needs to draw one level 4 monster and the game's over.
Plenty of them in the deck. 17 total monsters.
Because Gaga Cowboy is the way to end games.
That too. 450 life points left, that's not enough. But you can't really think about that if you're McCavitt.
And that's Mandragora.
He's got it. But does he see the play?
Yeah, that's it anyway, just attacks.
Goes to the attacks anyways, finishes things up. Multiple choices there, but he goes with the battle option.
All of it meaning that he just wins.
Yep.
Yeah.
And after, first game that didn't seem to go Murakami's way at all, the next two go pretty much perfect. I mean, actually perfect, 8,000 to nothing both times.
It might be the fact that he got to actually change his deck with his side deck mid-game.
Yep.
Definitely. Although he had to go second both games. And maybe that says something about Evil Swarm. Maybe he benefits from that extra card.
And could thrive off of the extra card. I mean, those normal summon effects, those are all from the hand for the most part. So Castor isn't any good unless you have another one in hand. And that's one of the reasons you inherently have to run a higher monster count in this deck. 17, it could clog a lot, but 3 of them also take another card out of your hand with them.
Yeah.
So in effect, it's almost like running 14 monsters.
Pretty much.
Except some of them are double monsters.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting to see that the deck still worked out, even though the main advantage of it, being able to lock down the big special summons, wasn't really relevant here.
No.
Ophion searching out the Infestation Pandemic, that's still pretty big.
But a lot of the time it did just come down to the fact that things were 50.
Yep.
50 more.
Those 50s, I mean, Gear Armor doesn't like 50s.
No.
That's what we've learned. Math, calculators, keeping track of it.
The scorekeepers that were there.
Well, it looked like the scorekeepers were having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Figuring out what was going on with all those 1950s, 1550s, etc. The 3 Evil Swarm Thunderbird was interesting.
Yeah.
That's not something that I see a lot of at 3. Normally, that's the one-off Evil Swarm monster that a player puts in their deck, just to have it around because they can search it out whenever they need with Infestation Infection.
See, it's a very nice card, though, because it can save itself, and then it gets more attack.
Yep, as long as you have the life points to spare. And you do, because Murakami is not playing Soul Charge. And I'm sure of it this time. I double-checked. He's not playing Soul Charge at all.
He's not playing a Soul Charge?
So he does not need any of those life points.
Wow.
He's subsisting entirely on normal summons from Castor and Krikion.
Wow.
Which is not what I would expect.
No.
But it worked out for him, because the other thing that he doesn't lose in addition to all those life points is the battle phase that you have to skip with Soul Charge. Being all normal summon reliant and having all those extra 50s in your attack points does you no good if you can't use it in battle.
That's true.
So by foregoing Soul Charge, he keeps all his battle phases. And that's one of the key points for last chapter of the Noble Knights that we talked about on the strategy site a while back, as opposed to Soul Charge in your deck. I mean, not only do you get a Knight and an Equip back, you keep your battle phase. And for an Equip-oriented deck that thrives a lot on just being bigger than your opponent's monsters and not having to use the extra deck if you don't need it, that's a big thing. And we saw it play out just like that here. These Heliotropes versus Gear Armors, or 2550 versus 2500.
Yeah.
It's a bigger advantage than you'd think.
It seems so small. But you're going to be able to get rid of things.
Mhm.
And that's what it comes down to. Just you having more people than they have
Yeah,
people.
if you just don't run out of monsters, and you, more importantly, you don't run out of ways to summon them, then you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
That's the risk in running low monster count decks. Like, the first version of Fire Fist, it was more of a bear deck.
It's just bear.
We played 3 bears, 1 gorilla, some Gene Warp werewolves, and a Rescue Raptor 2. And that was it. Those were all of the monsters. Maybe card D. But not only does that make you skip a turn, essentially, to draw 2 extra cards, it's also not useful to battle with. You don't get to do anything there because of main phase 1 effect. And one of the ways that you could win against that deck, one of the reasons it wasn't as successful, is that you just run out of monsters so fast. And that's happened every single time the fire deck has come back. People skimp and skimp and skimp on the monsters, and they figure that they can replace it with all of the searching effects from Fire Formation Tanky. But in the end, when you run out of them, you're out of them.
Yeah.
There's no pot of avarice. You're not getting those monsters back.
Well, that's what people really think about it is, well, this is a search card, so it must equal the card that I'm searching. But
Sometimes
it's
it
just not the
does,
case.
sometimes it doesn't. And that's why Soul Charge was such a good thing for those decks, that it finally gave them a way to get back all those monsters en masse. And then we saw the really low monster count decks start to thrive again as they had a way to get back everything that they'd lost before. So they could play a little bit more recklessly if they have Soul Charge in hand and break through all the trap cards. And there are a lot of trap cards. This one, there are fewer trap cards than I expected.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm used to seeing 16 plus in a Gear Gia deck. Bill McCavitt only has 13.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And Murakami only has 12. And I'm used to actually a lot more spell and trap cards in Evil Swarm decks as well. At one point, they used to main deck Macrocosmos. Back when you could have multiple copies of Macrocosmos. And it's a little surprising that they're not still doing it.
I love Macrocosmos.
I
It
can't
is my
stand it.
favorite
I
card.
don't like the idea of cards that make it impossible for most of the game to function.
It's just so nice. I love it. I really do. I love Macrocosmos decks. Decks that were just designed on having your own cards banished.
Now, I did like the old DD Survivor
Yes.
Monarch deck. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I did play that quite a lot back in the day. Have you
See,
ever
you can't
actually
say
resolved
that.
Grand Convergence?
Oh,
Have you ever played with Grand Convergence?
I didn't play with Grand Convergence.
You have to play with Grand Convergence at least once. It's absolutely a GX card. If you have Macrocosmos on the field, you can do this, and it's a dark hole that adds some damage on as well.
No, I didn't. I've never played with that.
It's always fragile because you have to rely on the one specific continuous trap, but it's very satisfying to pull off. Also satisfying actually summoning Helios, the Primordial Sun.
I've never
off of
done
Macro.
that.
You haven't done that either?
Never done that.
Are we going to need to get you back to like your card locker so you can dig all of these cards out?
I'm going to make a Macrocosmos
You've been
deck.
missing. You've been missing out.
Yeah.
You missed out on the great golden age of Macrocosmos. Not Golden Homunculus, though. I haven't even played him.
No. It was just DD Survivor. DD Survivor, Macrocosmos.
Tell you what, we can
Monarch.
get you your Macrocosmos and your Dimensional Fissure and that sort of thing. And we can get you the first Monarch
Yeah?
from Legacy of Valiant. We can get you a Macrocosmos Mega Monarch deck.
Yes.
The M deck.
Yes. Has to be
Macro
done.
Mega Monarch.
Has to be
And
done.
with that, let's head back to our own Mega Monarchs, the Analyst team.
Great. Thank you, Jerome and Matt, Jerome and Rob. May I just say again that you guys are doing such a wonderful job back there. I think a lot of people don't think that it's hard to talk for an hour straight about one topic, but it can be pretty challenging. So I just wanted to applaud you on the fantastic job that you're doing. But speaking of fantastic jobs, my 3 analysts are here again, and we'll take it away to them.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, real interesting match we had there. Real pleasure to watch. Giga versus Evil Swarm. Now, normally you take Evil Swarm into tournaments where you're expecting a large number of high-level monsters, high ranks, high synchro summons, because you lock them all out of that. So in this Giga matchup, the key card, Ophion, doesn't actually stop anything. So we were very okay, maybe it's not so good for the Evil Swarm player, but then when you look at the infestations against all of these trap cards, you know, you're going to really be able to stick your cards. So we were like, the matchup's not great, but it's not terrible. I mean, Jason,
we had difficulty finding a bad matchup for this deck. As much as there aren't like many stellar matchups in this particular metagame for Evil Swarms, it's very consistent, it's relatively fast, it's hugely flexible, and gives you like a unprecedented, well, not unprecedented, great access to a rank 4 toolbox. It's very solid all around.
Yeah, Jarrell, how did you feel about that matchup?
Prior to the match starting, there was a couple of spectators guessing that this particular Giga deck will have synchros, Karakuri brand and breed. And it kind of boggled me because I didn't see that throughout the whole time that we was in Italy. There was no one talking about that. So I was saying, because we knew that it was going to be Evil Swarm versus so I was saying to myself, if this is true, the Evil Swarm player lucked out.
Yeah.
You know, but still in all, the Evil Swarm player did what he had to do. The Giga deck was trying to fight the battle, but it just seemed like there was an answer for everything, as you can see in the first highlight.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
Now, in this first highlight,
Dark Hole on the Giga Armor. That's brave with the amount of Mermel in the tournament. He must know what his opponent was playing, or have a good idea, because if that was an Abyss Lyn, you'd feel pretty bad about that.
it's a very strong commitment play, rather, but it's not a strong follow-up. And that just shows that the follow-up does not have to be strong. You just have to slowly pick at your opponent and just pick at it. And Dark Hole's a very powerful card. Jason, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, if he knew his matchup, then that's exactly when and how he wanted to see that card. He wanted to see it busting open a Gear Armor, but even if it was a Fire Hand or Ice Hand, just getting those cards out of the way before they have targets to destroy, so there's no special summon. As soon as we saw that, we were all like, yeah, that's what he wants.
Yeah, it was. We're like pretty sure he knows what his matchup is here. But yeah, excellent start with Dark Hole. Should we take a look at the second clip?
Yes, with the perfect follow-up of the 1 of 3 breakthrough skills. So he used the breakthrough skill to control the advantage that Bill was gonna get.
Yeah, locking him out of the Giga Armor, taking away those powerful search options from him. The breakthrough skills always... I almost never feel bad if I'm flipping up a breakthrough skill. Yeah, there's times where it sucks, but whenever I play it, I'm always feeling positive. It's like, oh, breakthrough, exactly.
Jason loves the card.
Even if it sucks when you activate it, you get to activate the effect again later, and it might not suck then.
Yes.
So, yeah.
With all the morale tax running around in TCG at the moment. Let's move into highlight number 3 and have a look at that. We've got a yeah. Oh, it's the infestation, isn't it? Yeah. To dodge.
That was the Torrential Tribute, but the save from Infestation.
Yeah, he returns the card to his deck to dodge the Torrential Tribute so he can set up for his next turn. Absolutely excellent trap card. I really like it.
And I think that's what gave the Evil Swarm the advantage, that they can escape certain tricks of the trade.
The ability to have a fairly generic card, like a reusable card that's going to let you dodge multiple opposing effects, racks up a lot of positive game position for you.
And it lets you search your deck. So not only are you dodging those dangerous trap cards that are going off in your face and taking away your cards, you're replacing those monsters, dodging the removal cards, and getting setting up for your later game plan. Because then you see it crossing cards off your mental list. Oh, what could his answer be for this? Okay, Torrential Tribute's gone. Next time he's not going to have Torrential Tribute.
And it's only like that because of the mass removal. As in the next highlight 4, we will see Needle Sealing.
This one
after the Soul Charge. And I'm going to give it to Matt.
This one caught me off guard, seeing main decked Needle Sealings from Bill. Normally we see this as a side deck tech against Infernities or other decks that want to swarm the field very quickly. But yeah, he Soul Charges into his 2 Giga Armors, gets them face down, and his opponent then plays straight into the Needle Sealing. if I was Neo, I would have been caught completely off guard, but I would have played into the needle ceiling.
Absolutely. For game one, super uncommon. Great choice for this tournament because of the existence of Infernities. Even better with a number of Mermail decks that we ended up seeing.
Yeah.
It's been a side deck tech pick, at least in North America in the TCG, since a little bit before YCS Chicago. Got really big there because it does work so well in Gear Giz with your ability to set one face-down Gear Armor, meaning your opponent only needs to have 3 face-ups to blow away, or you can give up 1. But in this case, 2 set Gear Armors, even easier. So the surprise factor of that play, ridiculous.
Yeah, absolute blowout there. First time I believe needle ceiling was getting very big was wind-ups were the thing. And it was like, oh, I can deal with this carrier and all these toys that are flooding the field.
I strongly think that Bill had to adapt to the Orpheon early on, and it's not really much that he can do to Orpheon already on the field. And if we take a look at highlight 6, we will see one of his escape methods. Now, he really didn't have any other choice in the matter other than
this
Arc right there, you see? So he drops Arc and really has nothing to do, hoping that he doesn't have a response.
Yeah, you see, he's very happy when this goes through, and there's a misplay from Neo here because
this was unfortunate.
As Jerome pointed out, activating Forbidden Dress this time doesn't go back and stop the card being targeted. So this was a really bad exchange from Neo's point of view because he loses his Ophion to one of the few outs that Bill had, and not only that, he gives up another powerful defensive card. Which was. It all went downhill from there, and we saw the game. Bill run away with the game from that point. If we take a look at highlight number 7, we have a lot of highlights, so let's just move straight into the next one. So for this highlight, we have another number 101 being used to target the other number 101 and getting Fiendish Chained. Bill just having all the answers to this situation. Back row heavy decks do this. It's very frustrating to play against it when you just see, a bunch of set cards that you have to dig through, and when you start running low on resources, all of those cards are answers.
Yep.
How do you feel about it?
There's nothing that I really can say. Only that game 2, if we look at highlight number 9, we will see a very important opening play. So after Bill wins game 1,
that was all monster hand. Yeah.
Neo really doesn't have anything in his hand but to set up for the best optimum play.
Yeah, that's just again looking at a bad hand and making the best of it. In this case, it's getting down the monster. The attack points so relevant. The Heliotrope having the 50 more attack than the Gear Armors and stuff also very relevant in this match.
That was huge.
And so just going straight out with the Ophion and the protection. He's not trying to block his opponent's special summons. He's literally putting the king in the castle on the table.
Plus, he's seen the likes of needle sailing and mass removal in the earlier game. So his only logical answer is the lower the monsters I have on the field, but more protection. Pandemic is very good.
Pandemic.
Invest and protect, absolutely.
Yes, and even Bill, again, adapting to the game state, adapting to his weakness somewhat, he then goes and searches out Arc again in the highlight 10.
So yeah, he's again looking for that answer to Ophion. I mean, worked game 1, right?
Giga really has nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's going to struggle with that. If it didn't have the trap card ready to answer the Ophion when it was played. Just being able to go for the snatch here. There we go.
And on another note, I'm sorry to just swing back into the highlights, but let's go to highlight 13. Jason, why don't you take care of that one?
This was actually the conclusion of game 2, which we saw Murakami using Bahamut. Pitching for Evil Swarm, Bahamut's monster stealing effect. No alternative targets for Karen Gorgon, the anti-luminescent knight, to redirect to, so its power unfortunately ineffective, and that led to an easy game shot from Murakami.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage on the table immediately, and that was quite late in the game. It's just like, okay, I'm just going to take your only guy, and I'm going to hit you in the face with it.
Karen Gorgon, not big enough on its own to repel those attacks anyways, but it could have sopped up some damage if it didn't turn traitor, which it did. And that was on to game 3.
Yes, let's take a look at game 3. Do you have a preferred highlight that we should look at for this one?
I think we should look at the opening, the 14.
Yeah, let's take a look at 14.
Now, in this one, Neo opens up 3 Thunderbirds.
Oh, that's...
Again, one of these just almost miraculously bad, unlikely openings. Like 1 in a 1,000 games. And in this case, so rough because it's the one Evil Swarm that you can't special summon with any sort of effect. It doesn't help you get more cards onto the table. And that really set the pace for Murakami's agenda in game 3.
And shortly after, if we can go to highlight number 17. This is probably a game-defining moment right here because he has Heliotrope on the field, and he dog holes again and Pandemics.
Yep.
And that right there opens the way to highlight number 18. And highlight number 18, after he has 450 left, is the game-winning moment. So let's go to highlight number 18 real quick.
Yep, again, those 50 attack points, just sweeping it out.
Because he knew that after that, it will either attack for game or bring out Cowboy just in case.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to Jessica.